Well, likely we've all heard the phrase before, you can't give what you don't first have, right? You can't give what you don't have. We can know this is true in many ways in our life. We can't give a person a gift that's beyond our financial means. We can't play for someone maybe a beautiful song on a guitar or piano or trumpet or any other instrument if we just first started learning that instrument and we only know a few chords at that point. We can't give someone our time or our presence if our day is already pretty much booked from end to end, and we have meeting after meeting and we don't have time to give them. You can't give what you don't have. And I think this is true when it comes to our life of faith. And I think the truth of today's gospel is that even though we try to fulfill our lives on our own, fill us up with certain things in our lives, that nothing will fill us at the end of the day more than Jesus. So the gospel, we have this little scene change. It's kind of like Jesus and the disciples catching their breath, kind of in between the major mission that they first started on, and the bread of life discourses, which are going to come in the weeks to come. And Jesus sees that his disciples are getting tired. They've done a lot of good work. They've done a lot of good ministry. And we can tell this because there's great numbers, following them around. And he sees that they're running low. So he invites them to come out on the boat and go to a deserted place with him for a little while. And it even says, it includes the detail, they didn't even have time to eat. How many days, we have in our lives where we're just kind of doing from thing to thing and we're just kind of shoving food on the go, going to McDonald's or whichever because we don't have the time. So in doing so, Jesus is inviting them to rest, to take a break from their work. When was the last time that we had a real time of rest? Where's a place, that we love to go to rest? Because when we rest, I think two things happen. We really get to stop and slow down and feel and notice what's kind of going on inside of us that we don't have time to maybe notice or process or kind of going throughout our days and our schedules. Then we also have time to share that with others. We have time for relationship and communion. I wonder what it looked like on the boat for Jesus and the disciples. I'm sure Jesus was going around and kind of talking with different people one-on-one, kind of catching up with them, seeing what's going well, what's not going well, what's making you joyful, what's frustrating you. And the disciples get a chance to be together and to laugh and to tell jokes and take their sandals off a little bit. It's a real time of just joy and of peace. And we know our lives can be kind of like a conveyor belt at different times, and we go thing after thing. And whether we realize it or not, we oftentimes, the things that we choose to do, these things, they yearn to fill us up, to make us feel complete, make us feel fulfilled, accomplished. But truthfully, when it comes to the question of fulfillment and happiness, even though we'd rather, have that question and answer kind of in our own hands, but it's ultimately Jesus and our relationship with him that's going to bring us that fulfillment. In our lives, I think there's a temptation at times to define ourselves by what we do, the activities that we involve ourselves with, and our ability to do them well. Yet, each one of us is meant to have a time of rest. To just be, and especially to just be with Jesus, so he can talk to us about our lives and what's going on and the things that we're yearning about. You can't give what you don't have. I think as Christians, as we're called to share Jesus with others, we can't share him unless he's first nurtured and acknowledged in our own lives. In seminary, I came across an important phrase was kind of revealed to me that I've kind of carried with me And I try to keep this at the front of my mind, even though as human beings we're pretty forgetful from time to time. And this little phrase consists of 3 words: relationship, identity, and mission. Relationship, identity, and mission. And there's a certain order of their importance. So identity is kind of at the core, right? What is our identity? I was asking the question, who am I? What does it mean to be me? What's the foundation of my life? And that comes from our relationship. And while we have many important relationships in our life, the most important relationship is the one we have with the Father, through Jesus, and in the Holy Spirit. With Jesus, we are son and daughter of the Father. And that relationship is unchanging. Nothing's going to ever change that, and we can always fall back on it, so it's not dependent upon anything. And yet, it's also something we're called to realize and to nurture in our own lives. Well, how is this relationship nurtured? Through the sacraments, through the church, through the gift of the Eucharist, Jesus' own body and blood, and through our own personal prayer life. What does our personal prayer life look like? Certainly, I'm a fan of prayer before meals, generally because it means there's food coming after. But certainly, Jesus has a lot to say to us, and he wants to hear a lot about what's going on in our lives. Do we give him the time? Do we go out on the boat with him when he invites us? Or do we look at all the things that need to be done? Do we look at all the things that are on our schedule? Do we look at the crowds that are kind of in need of ministry and kind of give Jesus a pass for maybe tomorrow? We're not going to have a nurtured relationship with Jesus if we don't give him the time. And I'll put myself first in that temptation. Even just yesterday, we're supposed to have holy hiking in the morning, but with all the rain and everything and the flash flood warnings, decided that wouldn't be the best of ideas. And when it was canceled, I was like, okay, I'm thinking like all the things I have to do. Okay, I could send some emails, I could do some phone calls, I could do some things for planning for this next week. And Jesus was like, no, you can pray a little bit, do your holy hour, and that will be good and good and refreshing for you. So the third word, the phrase, relationship, identity, is then mission. So mission comes from our identity, comes from who we are. We can go forth and be on mission. Mission is the activity of our lives, whether it's the battlefield or the playground, whichever you desire. It's the activity of our lives, whether that's family life, work demands, our social schedule, our entertainment needs, our work of evangelizing, of proclaiming the gospel to people. The temptation for us, I think, is to reverse the phrase, though. Instead of relationship coming first, we're often tempted to put the mission first. So all of our activity, all of our things. And so what we do gives us identity and fulfillment. And if we have time for a relationship, that's great. And again, I'd put myself kind of first, kind of in this temptation. But sometimes it's okay to say no. It's okay to put aside the schedule and the demands of life and to focus on what is most important. Because no matter what we fill and try to fill our lives with, nothing's going to fill us more than Jesus. So maybe today, let us do a little bit of an internal check. How are we? Where do we need rest? Do we need rest? And not be afraid to maybe rearrange some things in our schedule and our life to really make room for that. And then let us also give thanks and praise to God for the gift of our lives, but also for the gift of his church and of the Mass, celebration of the Eucharist, which is truly a place of rest for us. That we can slow down and offer our lives to God. And in turn, he opens his own life in his own heart, offering his own body and blood to us as we walk the journey.